Recently, there has been a new app called Tea. This app was intended to help women stay safe by letting them warn each other of red flags in men. However, it has not been able to live up to or accomplish its stated promises, and it got hacked by the negligence of its dev team. In this video, I will discuss what the app is, what the MGTOW perspective on apps like it and its male equivalent TeaOnHer are, and why it failed, and share the news of what happened with the Tea app hack. If you can even call it that, in reality it's a data breach. Let's begin. So to start off, the Tea app was and still is an app that was intended to protect women from dangerous men or men with red flags by allowing women to warn each other of red flags that those men may have, and thus be able to avoid said men and therefore avoid situations where the red flags can negatively affect them. The stated goal appears to be a noble one, as it is good to allow people who want to date someone to ask about them to others to see if they have red flags or not, and if it's a good idea to date them. However, promises and goals that exist sometimes exist only on paper, and the Tea app is one example where this was partly, if not fully, the case. While there was a goal of wanting to have the app be a platform where red flags in men can be identified, and certain men with said red flags avoided, in practice things were much different. The app was essentially used and marketed for gossip purposes and allowed for the spreading of gossip and rumors. What's also worse is that, by the nature of how the app works, given that only women are allowed to use it, certain vindictive women are able to use this app to dox and leak information on men they don't like that is not relevant to whether or not these men have had red flags or criminal records. This also has the potential of making false accusations easier to carry out, and in this post-Me Too world where the risks of false accusations have already been increased, apps like these simply add fuel to the fire and make the problem worse. My perspective, and I believe it is a perspective shared by many of my fellow MGTOWs, is that apps like Tea and its male equivalent TeaOnHer, while in theory are supposed to be good and act as an early warning system against red flags, are in its current implementation as we see it now, completely broken and not fit for purpose, with downsides heavily outweighing the upsides. The reason I say this is due to the fact that the app was advertised as a gossip app, with features and capabilities that are not primarily related to finding red flags and or criminal records, which are also locked behind a paywall, which is strange for this kind of app, as you would expect the most important features, including criminal record lookup, to be available out of the box, not be paywalled or locked behind Tea Pro, and also because there was no recourse for men to do anything in case a false claim was actually submitted, or profiles unrelated to red flags or safety concerns were being made of men behind men's backs. To add to that, the reason I say this kind of app is broken or unworkable in its current implementation is that it is insecure. That is that it has barely any security, or if we go out on a limb, absolutely no security to begin with, and also because the app developers lied to their users. In the app, the developers claimed that user selfies and other identifying information was only stored temporarily and that it was deleted after the gender verification was complete, and some of the info would stay on device. This was a lie, and the two hacks, if you can even call them that as they are actually just data breaches, prove it. Now that I mentioned the hacks, if you can call them that, or more accurately data breaches, I will now explain why the app failed, and how said data breaches led to that failure. The failure of the app is directly as a result of the poor security and also potential vibe coding done when building said app. The personal identifying information and selfies gathered by the app that were not deleted were stored on a public Firebase storage bucket that was left unsecured and unguarded, essentially open to anyone who knew what to look for and what to do, thus resulting in a lot of personal identifying information, including IDs, selfies, and other information being leaked, including location data, enough to put it on a map, and someone has already made such a map. Not only that, a second data breach happened, this time leaking and exposing user chats, posts, and direct messages. With such poor security, the app's user base essentially got doxxed and had their personal information uploaded on the internet for everyone to see. As a result of the two data breaches and the effective non-apology given by the T-app developers, the app essentially imploded and collapsed, now no longer having the same degree of relevancy or importance as it once had, and with the reputation of the app and its developers being permanently stained by these events. In my opinion, it is not certain if the app will come back or not, but regardless of what happens next, there are lessons to be learned from all of this. The lessons I believe should be learned from all of this are the following. Firstly, app developers should actually focus on the security of their apps and try to at least maintain a minimum standard so easy attacks and data breaches don't happen, and if they do happen, are mitigated, and app developers should be honest with their user bases and not deceive them, or lie to them. Secondly, in the era of COSA and the Online Safety Act and the general push for age or identity verification on the internet, often backed by governments, one should be very wary of such pushes that are often backed by governments, or apps asking for age or government documents that don't and shouldn't need them, and one should pay close attention to the security of such apps that request this data, or lack thereof, as what happened with the T-app can happen to any other app that you may be using. Thirdly, if you choose to keep dating, always assume a profile is being collected on you behind your back and decide whether or not that is an acceptable risk to you. If not, then don't date. And the fourth and final lesson is to understand that remaining single is always the cheaper, easier, and the more effective, and to say, the best solution than any other solution, as you keep your resources, your freedoms, and your peace of mind. Quick note, as of the 15th of August 2025, when I wrote this part into the script, the male equivalent of the T-app, TeaOnHer, also had a similar data breach with users' personal info, IDs, and government documents and selfies being leaked, meaning that of the lessons I mentioned, the ones on security are even more important to take note of, and it is now my belief that there should be a consensus that apps like T and TeaOnHer should not be made until there is a way to make a workable implementation that avoids the gossip elements and protects user data and focuses solely on checking records and red flags is made. With that being said, this has been Igor MGTOW and video games. Like and subscribe and click the bell notifications if you enjoyed the video. And follow me on odyssey.com, MGTOW.tv, Twitter or X if you call it that way, and Rumble, and bye bye. Thanks for watching.